So welcome everyone to my talk about internationalization and not only. I'm Albert Wolszon. I'm a senior Flutter developer at Linkcode since 4 years. I gained all the knowledge on the internationalization by playing with Flutter, and I've also created an RBFI, which was a translation management tool that was dedicated to Flutter. And I've also created a PO editor to IRB transpiler. Yeah, and if you'd have any questions about the talk or something else, you can reach out to me on Twitter after the talk or just at the Linkcode booth. Okay, so what are we gonna talk about today? I want to introduce you to some of the key concepts in internationalizing that you need to keep in mind and not forget when you're going to target multiple targets all around the world in your products or the application. I'm going to tell you how Flutter helps with this concept, and I'll also share you a few tips and maybe some fun facts. But that's a lightning talk, so be prepared to a very dense pile of knowledge about it. But so that we're all on the same page, let's maybe start with the definition. So what's internationalization at all? By the Wikipedia is the process of designing a software application so that it can be adapted to various languages or regions without engineering changes. And the very similar term, the localization, is the process of adapting this already internationalized software for a specific region or language by either translating text or adding some locale specific components. But in more simple terms, so that we all understand it better, internationalization is thinking about making the application aware of all these differences between different locales or languages, for example, by using some variables instead of hard-coded text. And localization is process of adding these texts for a specific locale or the language. So let's start with the concepts, and let's start with the most basic one, which is the date and time. Yeah, so date and time can differ in a few things between different languages. And one of these is the date format. This is something that probably everyone already saw. Yeah, but so for us Europeans, this is the probably most popular date format. Americans like to put the month first. There are also differences between the time clock that is used. Some people prefer, or some locales prefer to use the 24-hour system. Some other prefer the 12-hour system. Yeah, and that's small off topic. So who has been to Thailand recently, maybe for some vacations? Okay, nice. So I'm actually looking for some hotel recommendations. So maybe we can talk after the talk. Yeah, but seriously though, when I was doing some Google search, totally not related to my daily work, I've noticed this very weird thing in the Google search. Well, I was looking for Flutter 2.0 release news, which was actually in the past, but I got dates in the year 2500, which I think wasn't there yet. Yeah, so even calendars can differ between various locales, and Thailand doesn't use a Gregorian calendar for all of this stuff. Next thing, let's try to buy some calendar on Amazon, but they start on Sunday, not on Monday. And in some other cultures, the calendar, the weekdays start at even different weekdays. So going back to Flutter, or Dart actually, there's the package called INTL for internationalization that can help us in making sure that some of these concepts are well localized depending on the locale that we use. The INTL package, for example, has the date format class, which can format all your date-time objects using the format that you want. In this example, you can see the same date, so the June the 11th, both in English, that uses English month names and the 12-hour clock, and for the Polish, which uses obviously the Polish month name. But also supports not only the languages themselves, but here we have a Serbian language that in the first example uses just the default script, which is the Cyrillics, and says this Utorak, but in Cyrillic. And if we put explicitly the Latin at the script, and this is all part of the locale, we get the, well, Latin alphabet weekday name. And if you're using Flutter, which you probably are on Fluttercon, you can use the localizations locale of context to get the locale from your context. The localizations is an inherited widget that is passed in the material app or widgets app, Cupertino app, depending on what's the user's locale and what supported locales are in your application. And here's first tip. Do not use the language code when you are passing the locale to your formats, because then you will lose all the other stuff like the script or the country, which, as you have seen with the Serbian language, makes a difference. So use this to language tag method on that instead. Next thing, numbers. So numbers also differ in various things and how we write it depending on our language or the locale. This is the decimal separator, what we put between the thousands or even the percent sign placement. So as an example, the English format uses the period for the decimal part, and French uses the comma. The percent placement is not only about whether we want to put a space between the number and the percent sign or not, but also whether we want to put the percent sign before. So is there maybe anyone that in your mother tongue, in your native language, you would put the percent sign before the number? Okay, so no one's here. But that would be in Turkish or the Basque languages, for your information. Next thing, if you're targeting maybe the Indian subcontinent, they have their own Indian numeric system, which for the smaller numbers, for the smaller powers of 10, is the same as you would normally use in English. But for the bigger powers, they have different names for these powers. So for 100,000, they have lakh, they have 10 lakh, and then there's crore, Arab, Karab, and etc. So after each 2 zeros in the number, they have a different name for the number, which is what they use for prices or for other numbers. INTL package also helps us with formatting numbers with the number format that has the decimal pattern and all other different constructors for displaying the percentages or also for displaying shortened versions of the numbers, like instead of 1 million with putting 6 zeros into the string, you'd get the 1M, or what is correct for a given language. Currencies, so kind of a subset of the numbers. We can also use number format for formatting the number for a given currency, either the symbol for the currency. So in the first example, we have the English, which has a default currency is the USD, so we get the dollar sign. But in the second example, we explicitly pass the name, this 3-letter ISO something format for the Thai baht, and we get the Thai baht symbol. And it's the same if we would use other locale. In Polish, we like to put the currency symbol at the end of the number, not before it. And also, what may be also worth thinking of is remembering that some currency symbols are reused for different currencies. So one such example could be the dollar, which usually means American dollar, but maybe the Australian, Canadian, Singaporean dollar, but also Mexican peso is sometimes expressed with the dollar sign, or the yen sign, which may be a Japanese yen, but also might be the Chinese yuan, if that's how it's pronounced correctly. Plurals. In English, we only have usually at most two variations of a word to express different amounts of plurals. So in the example of train, we have either one train or any other amount of trains. We would just put the S at the end. But in other languages, for example, my mother tongue, the Polish, we not only have 2 variants, but we have 4 variants. So you could see that depending on the number, we have different endings for the word. And many other languages has such different rules that can be defined using something that's called plural categories. There are 6 of them. And some languages support only 2 or maybe even 1 plural category. Some support more. So this is the example from the Unicode Common Locale Data Repository website that defines how the Czech language uses plurals. It also has this one, few, many, and other plural categories. And at the rightmost column, we see the rules that are used to determine which one plural category shall we use. Flutter generate localization command. So who is using this command on a daily basis? And that's majority of the room, which is very nice to hear. So for all the others, this is a command that allows you to use the ARB format natively, I'd say, in Flutter. It binds to the hot reload, hot restart, and your Flutter builds so that it generates localization delegates basing on these ARB files. In the ARB files, we can put the translations where we can set the type of these variables, the placeholders. So for example, here I'm passing the date as a date time, and I'm also passing the format, which is the same as the constructor name that we use in this intl package example. It also supports the numbers, the number format for double, integer, or num formats, where we also pass the format for the number that we want these messages to be formatted with, and also supports the plural messages using something that has a very not nice name, ICU message format syntax. So what we see here is a small kind of syntax to express, firstly, the count is the name of the variable that we're going to use for expressing this amount, then the plural keyword, and all the plural categories for a given language. In this example, that's English, and how these messages should look like for all these plural categories. And when we run this Flutter generate localization, we get a localization delegate that accepts this very nice datetime or double or integer variables, and not just the string that was formatted before. Next thing, text direction. So there's a kind of big part of the world that doesn't necessarily use the same text direction that we do. We use in English the left to right text direction, but there's the Arabic subcontinent, the Persian language, Hebrew language that use script that's right to left. And it's not only about the direction of the text itself, but also of the whole UI, the whole flow that users usually read the content. It's also mirrored. It's from right to left. So here you have the Flutter account on the X or Twitter, where not only the content itself is mirrored, as opposed to English, but also the sidebar that's usually on the left side is here on the right side. And all the other stuff is also mirrored. And just for comparison, when you take a look at this, this is how the same page looks when I set the Twitter language back to English. So it's all back on the sidebars on the left side. Flutter has a really good support for directionality. What you can see here is just a row widget that has 2 children, 2 texts, the first child and the second child, which are in this order in the code. But on the right side, in the preview, you can see that they're mirrored. And this is because I wrapped this row with a directionality widget, and I set it to right to left. And row is then displaying all these children in a reverse order. Directionality is an inherited widget that is part of the material app also, and they set the directionality based on the locale that your application uses, that your users have a locale in, and based on the supported locales that you pass to the material app. And there are some concepts, some notions in Flutter that support this directionality. One example could be the text align that has both the left and right text alignment. That's left is always left, right is always right, but also the start and end, which are direct text direction aware, and based on this text direction mean different things, as you can see in this table. There's also the edge insets that normally edge insets have the left and right, but there's the edge inset directional subclass that has also the start and end instead. That's text direction aware. And there are plenty of other structures that are text direction aware, like the alignment directional, for example. What is not so obvious is mirroring some elements like icons. some of them should also be mirrored depending on the text alignment. So we have this back button. Back button on the right to left application is also on the opposite side, so the arrow should be pointing in the other direction. Google has a really nice article about when to mirror in its Material Design 2 specification and bidirectionality, so make sure to take a look at that later. But be aware that if you are displaying some custom UI using custom paint or the render box, the 0, 0 coordinates are always in the top left corner. They are not text direction aware. You need to manually pass the text direction from the directionality inherited widget and do the calculations that accommodate this directionality yourself. And also, fun fact, there was once an issue in GitHub in Flutter repository about adding the top to bottom text direction, which is actually some scripts also supported, like the West Asian ones, or even the Mongolese script is only top to bottom. And there are a few websites in this script even. Yeah, you can take a look at this issue. It has really nice insights on how text rendering in Flutter works and why we can't really do that. Because yeah, the TLDR, they're not going to implement it into Flutter. Next thing, different scripts. What you see here is the word script, but in different languages that use different scripts. We have the Cyrillic, the Arabic, the Hebrew, and other scripts. And when you are creating an application that supports all of these languages, you might also want to test if your UI looks the way you want it to be, because otherwise there are some problems like the font support for a given locale, which is something that you might also want to remember about. Maybe your brand font doesn't support such script, or it supports it but wrongly, or you get some fallback font family that looks just plain wrong, or maybe it's just, you know, squares that makes all of this stuff unusable for the users of this language. The other thing, measurement units. Of course, we have the blue part of the world that uses the metric system and the rest. So we have the UK that use imperial system. We have United States that use something that's called US customary unit system. That's very similar to the imperial system, but for fluids, they use slightly different units of measurement. So when you are creating an e-commerce application and you are selling trousers or pants, you'd like to put the height of your model or whatever in feet and inches for the US, but in centimeters for the French bill probably. And yeah, it's different for the miles and kilometers for the volume, which uses either liters or the gallons when you're buying gasoline at the gas station. Or yeah, maybe aviation related fact, if you're flying old Cessna from the United States, you'd see the barometric pressure in the inches of mercury, and in the European small planes you'd get rather hectopascals. Yeah, so also small fun fact. But how to make use of all this knowledge? Well, firstly, please send the link to the recording of this talk to your product owner and designer, so they are also aware of all these differences and they don't look weirdly at you when you say that, hey, this is going to look bad on some of the locales. Make sure to write widgets and goldens also for different locales, maybe the right to left ones, so that you make sure that you don't get any overflow errors when displaying some UI and it looks correctly, doesn't throw anything. If you're using widget book, you can also add the localization add-on that allows you to switch between all the different locales for your components or maybe pages if you also have use cases for this. And there's also the Unicode Common Locale Data Repository resource that held this plural categories stuff, but it also has specifications for many different stuff, and all of the things that other languages have related to internationalization is also derived from this resource. But other than that, it's a never-ending story. There's always something to learn about, so make sure to keep learning about stuff. Yeah, that's the end.